guys. I think we're live. Happy Saturday. Inside the Industry with KDTV. Oh, hi Dolly. So I'm just jamming on my own here. Don't mind me. I hope you're all well this Saturday. I'm extremely excited and happy today because one, the weather is amazeballs. And two, I have an amazing guest. We have the Brendan Matthew joining us very shortly live. So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat and I'll ask them on your behalf. Because we're going to be talking all things theatre, how Brendan made the transition from actor, singer-dancer to director and choreographer. And I believe he does both still. So really good person to know and to hear from. And I'm just waiting for him to come on. Yeah!
Very gorgeous.
How are you, my love? Are you okay?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm really good.
This is so exciting to have you with us.
Oh gosh, no, I am flattered and honoured to be asked. Literally.
I think it's been like almost 2 decades since I've seen you.
It's been at least 600 years.
Hasn't it? It's insane. Basically, when I met you at RAM,
yeah,
obviously you were doing the course, and I knew you as an actor, singer, dancer. I knew you for your dancing as well. But then you went on, and you've got this like CV that's as long as my arm. So I can't possibly read all of it out. But I mean, we're talking all things Fringe, UK #1 tours. You know, you've recently done like Albus Dumbledore and Voldemort and the Teenage Hogwarts musical parody. I mean, I wish I'd seen that. Done Guy and Guy the Musical, UK tour, Miracle on 34th Street. Oh gosh, loads and loads and loads of things. Fast Forward at the National, Bush and Peck at Jermyn Street. You've done TV with, you know, Sarah Brightman's Christmas Symphony, Paul O'Grady Live Christmas Special, Elton John at the Royal Albert Hall. I think I was there for that one.
I think I was.
Any Dream Will Do, BBC. This is amazing. Tim
That's
Burton's
a
Sleepy
lifetime
Hollow.
ago. That's a real lifetime ago.
That's, I mean, but all these, you know, experiences make up, you know, who you are today. And we're going to talk a bit about all of that. Obviously, your choreography credits, your directing credits. So let's, like I do with all my guests, I'd love to just kind of give the viewers a little bit of an insight into how you sort of got into the industry, because you've trained everywhere. You've trained at Bird, Brit School, at the Globe, at the Royal Academy of Music. I mean, you're just honing. You obviously are a really dedicated, oh, love it, artist. You know, you're really dedicated to the art.
Makeup.
Hi guys, come in. So yeah, sort of, how did you, because I mean, you worked as a child, didn't you, with Joanna Lumley? Just going to drop that for you.
Yeah.
So what happened then? Did you sort of get back into it?
It's funny because like the CV, like I remember like yesterday I watched your interview with Julie Armstrong, who the gorgeous, who we love, who obviously was our dance teacher back at college and has had, oh, God knows how many credits to her name in the West End on tour and generally being the ultimate diva. And it just like when she was saying how it felt like talking about somebody else, it really rings home because like still after how many years in the industry, I still feel a bit like a phony. So
what do you mean? In what sense? Like in like you feel quite new to it?
Yeah,
or...
absolutely. Or that you haven't yet like either reached your peak of success, but I think success is like measured in so many different ways that like you can't even really go, okay, I've made it, or okay, I'm successful. I think as long as you're happy, I think that is success. But like in terms of like acting, and it was something that I've been doing since I was 9. I think I had my first job on the bill, like as a little extra kid in this hospital bed. And it was so lovely, and like they were acting next to me, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I really want to do. And like panto and things like that, going to see panto, and that really kind of made me go, this is the life I want to lead. I want to work in theatre. But I'm one of these people that I think you are given this opportunity that is life. And I've always had an over excessive imagination. They always used to say when I was a kid that I used to live in a dreamy land, and I would direct plays with my school groups, like my school classes, and kind of I go to the teacher and go, can I direct a play? And they'd be like, absolutely. And so as long as you get all your schoolwork done, and then you can go and play with the rest of the groups. And then we'll do a showing at the end. And that was, I must have been about 5, 6. Um, but I think in this opportunity of life, take any opportunity that you get to be an artist, whether that's being an actor, whether that's being a director, choreographer, producer, um, designer, even stage manager, anything that you kind of have a passion for within the industry, try it, do it, and don't just let one job pigeonhole you. I think do it all. It's like,
Yeah.
whilst you've got this opportunity, do it all, and there's nothing to stop you from doing it.
Oh my God, I love that. I was just getting a little bit like all the feels were coming to me when you were saying that. As people, we are all very creative and
Yeah,
artistic, just in different ways. We used to channel that kind of energy. But I just think, you know, when you are that kind of person, that especially some of the viewers that want to go into this industry, I think it's really lovely to hear that. And I think so often people kind of live for that validation of getting the part, getting into drama school, or getting that role,
yeah,
or whatever it is. You almost, I feel like, especially when you were maybe a little bit younger, that you kind of waited for that validation before you did things. And I think you've just summed it up quite nicely. Like, whatever it is, whenever you get an opportunity, you know, if
yeah.
it's with your mates or at school or whatever, just absolutely take it. Oh, it's so good. So good to hear that. I love it. So when did you sort of start choreographing on, let's say, a professional level, like when you were being, you know, paid for your services, if we put it that way? Was that kind of quite early on into your acting career, or
It
a bit later?
started, well, it started at drama school. I think we were all at Birds. We were taught choreography as part of our degree, as part of our course, and it was a very different. I mean, it definitely wasn't very musical theatre. It was very contemporary dance and contact work, which I thought really kind of gave me a step into creating like a movement language that was very personal to me, that wasn't necessarily following the mold of step will change, step, kick, leap, kick, touch. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't that. And then going into like training at the Royal Academy, um, we were lucky to be taught by people who really wanted to give us that entrance into the industry, no matter what way it was. I know that our course leader, Karen Rabinowitz, who is a legend, was very much. She said to me she always knew that I would go into choreography or I would go into directing, and whilst we were at the course, she was taking me aside to create choreography for films that she was choreographing. So she was using me as an assistant to kind of play off ideas with. I was sometimes the dance captain of certain projects. And they really did inspire you to try and find your creativity and train with them, not just as actors or artists on the stage, but behind the table as well, to be creatives. And it really, those guys did really inspire me, I think, to go into it. So from being an assistant choreographer to Karen, then going out into the industry as a performer, still having that imagination, that background, and that hunger for creativity. I was given opportunities by choreographers that I worked with to be dance captain of shows outside of college when I was working. I was assistants, I was associates, and I think it's always been a ladder of learning. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that the ladder of success exists. I think you're only as good as your last job, and you're only as good as how people perceive you, which is something very dangerous in itself, because so many people, everybody will perceive you in a totally different light. So there is you, and there is what everyone else thinks of you and knows of you, and they create this character in their heads about the type of person that you are. And I think that in a way puts you on your level within the industry. And I think um, for me there was opportunities that were given to me by very, very lovely people that believed in me. Um, and the ladder will always be there, in terms of you will always keep learning. It's more of a learning ladder. You will find that you will be an assistant even after, once you have hit the director stage. You'll find yourself that you will still assist people. You will still be an associate. You will still be a dance captain. You will still learn from other people, because it's such a collaborative nature. I mean, as an artist, I love collaborating with people. I love working with a solid musical director, a really great choreographer, um, and we're all in it together. I think you're always in a room of imaginations, and you might not always come up with the best idea in the room. You know, it might not come from you. It might come from someone who is sitting there, who might not have very much confidence, that may have this brilliant idea that will just literally blow everyone's minds, and then you go, oh, we'll use that. Because you don't know, you've just got to surround yourself with very talented people who have the same love for the arts as you do, that are telling the same story, that have that are imaginative, creative, that will feed and inspire your imagination as well.
That's so good. But it is that collaborative process which
Yeah.
can spark bigger ideas in yourself, like you said, and you're just like, oh, I'll run with it. I didn't see it from that point of view.
Yeah.
But have there been any sort of situations, because obviously we're not always extremely lucky in terms of having people that we necessarily click well with, maybe artistically or in your personality. So, is that, how does the process work when maybe you're not seeing eye to eye on a project? Have you had any experiences like that? And if so, how did you get through it?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's always not incidences. I mean, it's just an occurrence where some people won't always speak your language, and I always say, if you're working with me, then you're a Brendan person. And after any audition process, and if we have mutual friends, before we make the final decision, I will always go to someone like a mutual friend and say, are they a Brendan person? And if they say yes, then they're the right type of person for me. But there have been moments where that hasn't always been the case, and I've worked with people that don't want to tell the same story. But then again, kind of goes hand in hand with what I look for in an actor when I'm auditioning people, or the type of people that I want to work with. But some people will have very strong opinions. They will come in with an idea already in place of how they're going to do it, and there's no way of shifting that. But then it's up to me to kind of go, okay, how can I make this work? How can I make this ego, in a way, work for the benefit of the show, or whatever piece we're doing? Because there are loads of talented people out there, and just because they come in with very set ideas, it doesn't mean that they're not incredibly talented. I think you can be incredibly talented, have very set ideas of doing something, and tell the story brilliantly. But sometimes more often than not, you will work with absolute angels, and they are in it for the joy, and to tell the same story as you, and to play with you and be silly with you in a room. I love silly people. I love silly people who make silly, crazy choices that are totally out there, totally bold. And I will go, friggin' hell, yes, that's my type of person that can just not take themselves too seriously. I think one director once told me that the ego is the show and the piece that you're working with. So let that be let that be the loudest voice in the room, the piece that you're working on.
Very, very good advice for all of you newbies out there, or anyone that's auditioning or anything. I think that's really interesting to have that side of the table kind of inner process and thought. So let's go back to, you know, actors making those decisions, and maybe let's go to through the audition process. I know there'll be some people watching this back who are primarily auditioning for like drama school and are looking for more insight into the industry because they're not quite there yet. They haven't gone through training. So in terms of inspiring people when preparing their own pieces, I think you mentioned it there about being bold, making silly choices, telling the story is like number one. But that's really great advice about let the story be the ego, let it be the loudest voice in the room. And I think that's lovely. And I think so often younger performers can get so caught up in their own mind and about how they're coming across and am I good enough? Because they haven't gone through that process yet of discovering and things. So, you know, any tips for people that are trying to discover those kind of discover how to make those kind of bold choices?
Okay. First of all, and I mean, it's taken me 35 years to realize this, you are enough. At any stage in your life, you are enough, and you need to protect the mind that you are given.
Yeah.
And I think throughout your career, throughout your life, you are surrounded by people that will judge you. And that's on them, you know. You might walk in for a job or for an audition, or that they have their own thing. That's not your problem. I think you are enough for where you are in your life at this stage, at whatever stage you are, no matter who you are, what you're going through, you are always enough.
Yeah,
you are
absolutely.
you are your best self.
Yeah.
And I think just wanting to be in the room is such a huge thing. And I think it's often forgotten that like people make a decision, make a choice to become an artist because they love it, because they want to tell stories, because they've got something to say, that they've got a voice. And I think if you have a voice, use it, and it will, as the years go by, you will find new ways of using your voice and what you have to say. You will have new stories to tell. And as long as you keep building that creativity, the world is your oyster. And I think listen to the good voices. I think listen to the people around you that inspire you. If people judge you for what you do and judge you for your creativity, you're not enough. You're not tall enough. You're not thin enough. You're not fat enough. You're not as funny as you think you are. Da 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 da. Push them aside. That's not your problem. What you have to concentrate on is how good you are, how you feel, why you do this in the first place, why you love theatre, why you want to tell these stories, and how amazing you are. We're huge.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I always say, we were the ones that won the race. When we were being created, we were all winners.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like some trillion to one kind of statistic, isn't it, that we actually were born in the first place or something. I don't know the stats, but
Yeah.
yeah, we got there, didn't we? And we have this incredible gift, and it is just blocking out all the negative and just remembering, like you said, why you're here, why you love it, and that is to perform, isn't it? It's so sort of simple when we look back on it in hindsight. You think, oh yeah, of course, just because you have a bit more self-confidence, you've had a few jobs, and you've learned enough you have enough life experience, and some people are at different stages when they're sort of younger in their career.
Yeah.
What about people that are sort of maybe looking to produce own shows, but really don't have maybe the budget or things at the moment, are there sort of ways people can go around doing that, especially in this day and age? I mean, I guess most of it could be online. I don't know, Zoom readings, things like that. But what would you advise people?
It's such a really weird time, I think. And it's great that people are finding ways of doing things online. I think that's wonderful. For me, it's always been about live theatre. I absolutely love live theatre because you're in such a wonderful atmosphere. Funding, I mean, where does the money come from? I mean, you've got to have very rich friends or be very lovely to a lot of people. And I mean, I'm currently going through at the moment. We're my company that I've worked helped create with some friends. We're doing Godspell. And we
Ooh,
are
nice.
currently in the process of getting funding for that and making that happen. But in this climate, in this day and age, it's so difficult because not
Yeah.
everybody wants to kind of take the risk. I mean, I'm one of these people that, I mean, I did over Christmas. I took the risk and I produced Panto. Yes, it only lasted 3 performances, and we did make a loss out of it because it was cancelled. But I think it was something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to bring theatre back, and I wanted to tell these stories and have fun and find the light in the dark, as we kind of spoke about earlier. I think it's just about it's about being hopeful and making friends and working together. Don't just do it by yourself. I think if you are creating, if you're doing a show, don't go at it alone. Have people around you that will want to help you and want to support you and make it a team effort. Because if you do it by yourself, it's going to be very, very hard. And I think the more like-minded people you have around you, the more success you might find from it. And ask everybody for funding, ask everybody for help. The worst that they can say is no. And don't be afraid that, I mean, some people think that it might have an impact on you and the rest of your professional life. Like if I have a millionaire friend, and I ask them if they wouldn't mind putting something into a production, there is that little demon on the back of my head that's going to go, if I ask this person and they say no, will they hate me forever and I'll never get another job again? I think the worst that they can say is no, and I think it's just about being enthusiastic and showing how much you love what you're doing and to hopefully inspire them as well.
I think I've seen this thing where people are sort of crowdfunding, also buy me a
Yeah,
coffee. I don't know how much, you'd have to have a lot of people, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
exactly.
And so have you got a favourite show that you've worked on as a director, choreographer on the other side of the table? What was it? And why? Why was it your favourite?
That's a tough
Tricky.
one. I love all my shows. Um, I think the one that really kind of there are two that come to mind. One was The Kissing Dance by Howard Goodall, because I love the language of the piece. It's very funny. The music is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, anybody who knows Howard Goodall will know that his music is just, oh, sublime. And the actors that I worked with were on The Kissing Dance. They were all phenomenal. They were all so silly to work with. And they really made the rehearsal room a playground, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And it was great working with them because they were all fantastic actors. They were all fun to work with. The language of the show is very difficult. I mean, those who don't know it, it's based on She Stoops to Conquer, by Oliver Goldsmith, and it was still in that language, that kind of that ye olde language. It's almost Shakespearean in a way, even though it's not Shakespeare. It still had that kind of quality to it. very poetic language. And I absolutely loved finding creativity within that piece, working with those crazy people who I love, who
Oh.
are very, very good friends of mine. Every single person that I worked with on that show was phenomenal. The other one was My Land Shore, which I've done twice. I did it once in London and I did it in Wales, which is based on a true story in the early 1800s in Wales. The first Welsh working class martyr, who was a man called Dic Penderyn, who was hanged for being involved with a riot. So there was an incredible musical written by Christopher Orton and Robert Gould, and I got to work on that on the first professional premiere of the show, which was wonderful because it's almost creating something from scratch, even though the show itself was 16 years old, but we were giving it its first outing. Other than there was a youth production in Wales that had been done a few years before. There were a few workshops that were done before, and concert performances. And we were able to put the new version out there for the first time, and it was wonderful creating a new show with those guys, and a very, very creative couple, and the cast were all phenomenal. And it made me so proud as well, because I'm not Welsh, but my God, were they patriotic. And by the end, it was like, I wish I was Welsh by the end, because they had so much love for their history and their background and where they live and all of that. It's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful place. And the accent is does things to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love the Welsh accent.
Beautiful.
It's lovely, and they all seem to be such wonderful singers.
Yes.
The Welsh.
Oh gosh,
such
yeah.
Resonance. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, so it was basically like working on. I mean, we called it the Welsh Les Mis because it was very similar to that. I mean, I'm still like, I plan to do that show, God knows how many times. I want to be doing it like when I'm in my 50s and 60s, and hopefully by then I'll have the Revolve.
I'm coming to see it.
We'll borrow the one that they use for the old Les Mis, and we'll use that in the Welsh Les Mis, and we'll keep it going.
Amazing. Oh my God, that would be so good. As a director, you're going to love all of the kind of creative process, creating something new from scratch. But have you worked on something that is more of a revival that's been done before? And how difficult is it to find another way of telling that story?
It's interesting, and this is like a very interesting thing, because everyone will compare it to the last version.
Right.
And if you try and invent something, and try and invent a revival of a show, people will often watch and they'll be like, oh, the other production didn't do that, or I remember seeing it 20 years ago or 5 years ago and they didn't do that. I know there was a production that I did of The Hired Man, which is very much a play with music. And it's a musical to me. I mean, I did it when I was back at the Brit School, and we did lots of choreography to it. It was a very dancey show, and it was a very beautiful show. And it's always kind of, again, Howard Goodall, and it's always stayed in my heart. And when I did it at the Union a few years back, I turned it on its head and I said, I know that it's a musical. I know that it's a play with music. I know people have preconceived of this idea. And it had productions at the Landor. There was a very good production at the Landor. The concert production that was done at the Cadogan Hall a few years back, and which was directed by a very good friend of mine, Sam, and Andrew Linney, and he did it as a concert version. And I really wanted to turn it on its head and very much make it a musical. And by that, I wanted to add in choreography. I worked with a choreographer that I worked with a few times called Charlotte Tooth, who is incredible to work with. And she's such a fun person. Lots of brilliant ideas and is just so kind and giving and collaborative. And she developed her own language for the show, which did come from a very kind of jazzy, contemporary perspective, and we wanted to add more choreography into it, and we wanted to make it well, not necessarily less about the text and the story, because the story is the most important part of it, but we wanted to make it very musical theatre. And a lot of people came to see. I mean, I've got a weird thing which I'll tell you about in a second. It's quite funny. And it's not something I really kind of thought about, but somebody picked up on it. But in the Hired Man that we did, the cast didn't wear shoes. It was a shoeless production, and yeah, and a lot of people came to see the show, and they were very much like along the lines of the cast didn't wear shoes, and it was far too choreographed. And then they would compare it to other productions. And I think when you are directing a revival, you are always going to be compared to recent productions. And I think in a way it's turning off that little voice in the back of your head that is comparing. And a lot of the times you might not have seen the production before. You'll know about it because you should have done your research. But there will always be people out there that will be like, they almost feel like it is their show, but they have a preconceived idea about what that version of the show should be like. And sometimes you just want to screw it up a little bit. Not necessarily you don't want to make it bad, obviously. You never want to make it bad because it's your name on the poster. But you want to play around with it, and you want to try new things and give it not necessarily a new identity, but I mean, we're creative people at the end of the day. As storytellers, we are very creative people, and we want to kind of create our own creative stamp for it.
And the times change.
Yeah.
People are different in different decades of life. That's just how it is. And I think, there's something nice and fresh, bringing a modern twist to it, or bringing your stamp. You're a choreographer, you're a dancer. That's the language you speak. You can express yourself through that way. It sounds wonderful, this whole shoeless thing. Just like
I can explain that. So
okay,
when I graduated from RAM, I was in an awesome production of High Society upstairs at the Gatehouse, which I absolutely love. The way my shoes were, and the feeling of the floor, we had to do this number where called Let's Misbehave, where we had to do like a triple pirouette or something on the stage, and it was great choreography. Oh my god, it was wonderful choreography. But every single show I would slip, every single show, and and I have this. We did it with Mylan Shaw, we did it with The Hired Man. If I can afford to give grounding to the cast that I work with, I will. I feel if they can feel the floor under their feet, and it will keep them grounded, and it will give them that extra, I don't know, oomph, or feel really solid in what they're doing, then they will be happier. They're not going to slip, and they're gonna feel the earth, and they're gonna connect, particularly with a show like Mylan Shaw or The Hired Man. You're going to connect with the earth because it's a very earthy production. And so the whole time, actually, Mylan Shaw was the first one that we tried it with, where the costume designer was showing me pictures of miners in the early 1800s, and they weren't wearing shoes. And I said, oh, yeah, I want them to look like that. And she was like, okay, so topless for one, they were topless, and they weren't wearing shoes. And I said, yeah, all of that. And she went, no shoes, right, okay. And then she said, do you want that for the whole show? And I went, don't be stupid. No, of course not. And then I slept on it and came back in the next day, and I went, yeah, let's do that. They're going to feel so much safer. And so from then on, like, that became a thing. It's totally dependent on the show. I think with shows like Godspell, you can get away with it. But I think if you're doing something like Little Shop of Horrors or Ghost or something, it's not going to work as well. But I think that's always been a thing for me, is always wanting to feel grounded whilst I'm performing, because it can be dangerous. Like doing things, triple pirouetting on a slippery floor can be tricky, and it had nothing to do with the fact that it was health and safety of the piece. I mean, it was or the theatre, because they were very aware of it and they were very helpful. But I think I think for me that was something that I thought of for myself as a creative, with my own critical thinking and my own kind of imagination, that people sometimes work that way.
That's lovely that you've got that side, and you can relate to your cast members in that way, and you can literally put yourself in those shoes and or bare feet. Excuse the pun, but that's lovely, and not everyone.
Well, like contemporary dance, they do it, and I think there's a bit of a link between the way I see musical theatre, the way I see theatre, and contemporary dance. It's got that element to it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you prefer being one side or the other? Are you sort of still simultaneously, taking what opportunities come? I know you said you want to do Godspell. Is that something you just want to direct, or would you like to be in it?
I'm directing it.
Yeah.
And I have a wonderful associate called Ashen Gupta, and they have done work at the INO, the English National Opera, and they've just got a bond. We have a really wonderful bond together, and we inspire each other. I think most of the time I have this thing: when I'm directing, I want to be in something. When I'm in something, I want to be directing something. Doesn't necessarily mean that I want to be directing what I'm in. I think a lot of the time I will get that little buzz and that love for creating. I think I always look at the director that I'm working with and go, God, you inspire me to create something. And I love that as an actor. I love having conversations with directors and finding things. I don't really like dictatorial people, the ones that will say, walk over there, pick up the receiver with the right hand, say it like this, exactly how I do it, because then there's no, it's only coming from one place. I feel like, as I said before, if you're surrounded by all these imaginations, you might not have the best idea in the room as a director. There might be one person who's got a better idea than you. And try anything you can. If someone comes up with an idea, try it. And if it doesn't work, then they will know, you will know, everyone else will know. And then as there was a director that we worked with at Royal Academy, who Matt Ryan.
I was just thinking about him when you were saying all this. I was like, this is a guy that just having done, Jane Eyre, and the way he used the furniture and kind of just inanimate objects as moving scenery was just so dance orientated, really. And I don't think he's not a choreographer, but he has this imagination that sort of thinks like a dancer in that sense. But yes, sorry, carry on.
But he would always say, like, I remember him saying once, during a project, he went, "We'll audition the idea. Unfortunately, they haven't made it this time. It was a good idea, and we felt like they really did give everything they could have done." And it was really a lovely way of doing it. And something I always say is, lovely choice. Let's play around. Let's find another one.
Very well put. Very well put. I love that.
There are so many different ways to do something.
Yeah, you have to kind of explore. I'm going to go back to sort of seeing it from the actor's point of view. Sometimes you've got, say, a 50-50 choice. You can play it one way, you can play it. You've been given a piece, but no other kind of like information behind it. You've got a 50-50 chance of being what they want, I guess.
Oh, God.
Yes, make big, bold choices, but sometimes, what if you think the choice is less obvious and less out there, but more of a moment? What kind of advice would you give to actors to kind of really make that speak in the room?
go with your gut.
Go with your gut.
Yeah, I think there is no such thing as a wrong choice. There's an interesting choice and there's an interesting choice, um, but there is no such thing as wrong, in my opinion. Um, and some things work for others and some things don't. Some things work for some people and others don't, and that's absolutely fine. I think, particularly, I think don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Mm.
And then that's what rehearsals are for. So when you're rehearsing a show, you can afford to make mistakes every single day because it's a process of experimentation and trying things and getting things not, as I said before, not getting them wrong, but finding new ways of doing things. There's no one way of doing it. Another director once said to me, he mentioned something about like a sandwich technique, where it was what's under the line that you're saying, and it's a good. In a way, it's like subtext, but in a way, he mentioned it almost being like when a person says to somebody, "I want a sandwich." Why are they wanting a sandwich? What's under the line? Are they meaning it sexually? Are they meaning it like I genuinely want a sandwich? It's so many different ways that you can kind of perceive something, and don't be afraid to make those decisions and go with your gut, whatever it tells you in the instant. Sometimes the first idea you have is the best one.
Mm.
You know?
Instinct, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Sometimes when you read it, sometimes it just jumps out at you and you're just like, that's exactly how I want to play it.
Yeah.
Other times, like you said, it's very much kind of trial and error and see what kind of feels good to you, I guess, feels more authentic, when you try it one way or try it, and how can you deliver that. um are there any things, I know I love this kind of ladder analogy of success, and I know one of the viewers that was on earlier on asked me a question, how do you be successful in the industry? And I feel it's a very personal success, by definition is very personal, um, because it could be, I want to be a leading role in a West End show, or I want to get on tour, or I just want to pay my rent doing what I love, or I just want to be happy every day. Is there anything on your ladder that you have sort of on the vision board, definite kind of specific role or show that you would love to? You're just still going with the flow and seeing what opportunity comes up?
I am very much a go with the flow type of person. I think the higher up the ladder you get, of your own personal success, the more people chip in, and the more people have more to say about your creativity. Um, and the more I'm one of these people that, even though I want to surround myself with talented people that will kind of work, that will all sing from the same hymn sheet together. I think the more the more higher you go. Like, for example, if you're directing a show in the West End, you have to be okay with handing over your artistic vision to so many people. And so one person's going to take that, and they're going to go to, like, the associate's going to have something to say, the assistant is going to have something to say, and all of these different these interdepartmental areas of shows will chip in and make you instinctively created at the very beginning. They'll make it something different, and they will develop your ideas. I think sometimes at the beginning it's just nice to kind of have a piece that you can play with in its simplest form. And it's nice to just be in a room with people that doesn't have to be a big cast. I mean, a cast of 40 or 50, and sometimes it can just be so many voices going and so many ideas, which is wonderful. But I think sometimes it's really nice just to have a simple, solid piece that you have, that you know, that you love, that you want to develop, that you want to create ideas for, that you want to put in onto the stage, with only a handful of people that are on that journey with you. I don't think you have to. I mean, as I said before, like, if the opportunity came to direct a Western musical, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. I would be terrified of it. Absolutely. I think it's such a scary thing being in that room with so many people with so much experience, with so many people um, telling you how it should be done. And it can be very terrifying. But art is scary, I think. And I really, I love it at its simplest form, but I wouldn't say no to other opportunities and other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just beautiful. It's so lovely to see that you're doing so well, being able to do what you love and on so many different levels and different layers. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but I think it gives you more kind of versatility within the industry. It gives you more opportunities because you're able to kind of bend yourself and lend yourself into certain areas, and enjoy art in all forms, as opposed to just being, just, and that's it. And I think that can be quite hard, can't it? Especially when you set out with maybe you have a specific idea in place when you go to drama school or dance college and you think, oh, this is what I want to achieve. But actually it just opens doors to you. And like you said, if you're open and can see the opportunities and you take them and you're brave and you enjoy it and you're coming from a really nice, authentic, honest place of, I just want to do a great job because I love art and I just love creating. Yeah. I think that's going to resonate with the people you work with, and the people that watch you, and vice versa. And I think that's really lovely to hear. What kind of 3 pieces of advice would you give to people starting out or people thinking about doing this on a professional level?
Watch as much theatre as you can. Learn from different artists. I think I know Julie said it in her interview a few weeks back, but you always learn from not necessarily how to do it, but how not to do it. Always watch from the wings. I mean, there used to be a thing where people used to like not go to the first act and they would sneak in for the second act and they would just watch in because they didn't have to pay. Watch as much theatre as you can. It's out there now. I mean, even though it's online, there's so much of it. Like, nothing's stopping you from watching The Colour Purple, looking at the wonderful actors that are on the stage. The last 5 years with Katie Lipson, it's all there. It's all available to you. So get online, watch a play, see as much theatre as you can. I think that would be my number one thing. My second thing would be get a therapist. Get a good therapist. Talk to people. And surround yourself with really lovely, lovely friends that want to really boost you. And I know I've seen a few really close friends of mine pop up just now and like, yeah, I'm talking about you. Yes, David Murphy.
David. Yes.
Lovely, lovely guy. Ben Levy, my MD, is just a joy. Have those people around you that you can talk to about literally anything that's on your mind. Because as you go through life, you go through different phases, and the person that you are at drama school is going to be so different to the person that you are in the rehearsal room. That's going to be a different person to the person on opening night. And it's not just about art. You go through life, you get married, you have people around you dying, you have different jobs that you do outside of the arts. All of those things have an effect on you as a person. So really make sure that you are at home and with yourself, with your being and your love for yourself. And these people can help you, and they can help develop you into what you become, the flower you become. I think, so have a good therapist that you can talk to about all of this.
Yeah, 100%. Because I'm very passionate about inspiring the younger artists as they're going into drama school and equipping them with this kind of mindset, well-being, that sort of self-belief, which I feel is hard when you're that age. You're going through your teens and everything's changing, and then you're thrust into a big wide world and it's all very scary. And I think I very much agree with you. If you can kind of know yourself and just be okay with yourself and where you're at in your journey, and know that, and be like, this is good, this is where I am, but I will always get better. I mean, you can be 50, 60 and always keep learning and keep developing new ways and seeing things in a different light. So yeah, I'm very much on the same page with you on that. I think it's really, really important for your, you know, for your mindset, because it can be quite a, you could perceive the industry as to be very negative. You know, if you're getting a no all the time, you think, oh, nobody wants me and I'm not good enough. But it's not, you know, if you look at it like that, it's not about that.
No, it's not about you either. It's not.
Exactly.
It's nothing to do with you.
It's nothing. It's the puzzle.
Exactly. You are a piece of a very large puzzle. And you can have a friend who's a director that's directing a wonderful piece that you absolutely love, that you want to be in, but you might not be right for that particular puzzle. Doesn't mean you're not going to be right for others. Absolutely. I mean, I've auditioned loads of people that I've gone, okay, they're not right for this, but they might be right for the next show or the one after that. I'm always looking, like, whenever we do like My Land Shore, like, or if I've got a production of it coming up or something, I will always go, how's your Welsh accent? Do you know what I mean? In an audition, that's not right. That's nothing to do with My Land Shore, but I might see something in them that I go, oh, I absolutely love them. I know, like, a little story. My audition for the Royal Academy of Music, I went in, I was absolutely terrified because I was at that stage. I'd just come from Birds. I'd had a year of working as a dancer, and I had a dream of going to the Royal Academy of Music because I knew so many people that had gone there that I aspired to be, and they were incredible artists. And my very first song that I sang in front of Mary Hammond and in front of Karen, I only did half the song because I forgot the rest of it. And I was mortified. And I thought, this is absolutely terrible. I'm not gonna be given a place at all. It was just awful. And it was a really bad audition. And then they took me into another room and we had those interviews, you know, the little interviews that they give you. And I was so defeated, and I was like, oh my God, any talent that I had is literally just walked out the audition room, and it's not there for me right now. And I remember Mary saying, why do you want to do a course? You've already done one. You've already been to Birds. You've already had this training. And I said to her, because I know so many people that you've trained, and I want to be one of them. I want to be the people who I've met along the way, along my theatrical journey early on, that inspired me. I want to be one of those people. And I was reeling off all these names that had trained on the course before, and I just saw Karen and Mary's, like, you know, that cheeky smile that she gets that just pops onto her face. Yeah. And I was like, oh, at least I've got that through. And I honestly did not think that I was going to get in, and I did. And so it's not always just about your talent. It's about your passion for what you do. And it's about, like, in that moment when you're auditioning for theatre, they want to see that. They want to see you. I mean, if you sing and dance and act and all of those things, they are wonderful things, but you can improve on those things. What's in your heart is what's natural, and once they see that, that's the most attractive thing about you.
And it's, that's such a great story for hopefuls, because you can automatically just write yourself off because because you, the artist and performer and the auditionee, are fixated on something particular, whether it's hitting that note, whether it's making that intention come across. And if that doesn't happen, you throw everything else out the window. And there's multiple elements that go into the audition process. It is, you know, it's hard, isn't it? You know, you sometimes only have like 2 to 3 minutes in a room. And it is, you know, people are saying show yourself, but it is really just through that piece of music or through that monologue or through that, you know, reading that you're doing is where that passion has to come from. It's not, you know, necessarily all the chat before and after, because you don't have time, and you know, you're not going to be best buddies in that moment. But it is, just grounding yourself, I think is hard. But if you can get into the piece and into the song and know that off by heart and do what you prepared to do. And take away any extra external kind of worries or things you hear or, you know, thoughts. It's block it. It's leave it. And that's the art. I think that's the art of auditioning.
Yeah.
And the art, because when, and I know from my, you know, experience, you know, auditions, you can be like, oh, I don't even know if I can sing or act. And then you're in a show and you're like, breezy, because you're grounded and you're centered and you feel, again, it's that validation. Is it, I've got this, but you've left it. You've got to have that validation before you go into the room of going, I know what I do. And and it's good enough. And it's where I am. You know, it's the best I can be today. Yeah. I love it. Honestly.
I think the judgment, when you go through life and there's so many people judging you, you're not enough of this, you're not enough of that, you're not tall enough, and all those things. Leave that to them and don't judge yourself in that way. Don't become one of those people that tells yourself continually that you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too this, you're too that. Be kind to yourself, look after your mind. And that's what I was saying before, get a therapist, but talk to someone about it. At the end of the day, if people bring you into the room to audition you, they really, really want to give you the job. They really want you to be good, and they really want to connect with you on a certain level. Because otherwise, it's a waste of their time calling you in from the beginning. They are really relying on you to have that connection with you. And also, if they're not giving you anything, if the panel doesn't give you anything, they don't laugh at your comedy. They are busy doing their own thing. Don't take it personally, because chances are they've seen it before. Particularly in the shows in town, they know the material. They've seen it done God knows how many times. At the moment, they're just ticking boxes and trying to make sure that you fit into the puzzle. And there's nothing wrong with being a piece of the puzzle. There really isn't. And they want you to be their piece of the puzzle. And they're really going out on a limb to really make sure that they want you to get the job, every single one of them. And so with colleges and any kind of audition, when you audition for someone, if you're in the room, they want you to do well. They're not judging you. This is one thing I dislike about auditions, and I know it happens all over the place, and I know casting directors say it all the time, and I apologize to any casting directors out there. I love you. But the whole learning thing, the learning material, the being off books for the finals, all of that. I mean, there is a lot of pressure to be prepared for an audition. And I'm one of these people, obviously, you have to be prepared for an audition. You have to know, really have to know the piece that you're auditioning for. You need to know the characters. You need to know the relationships with the characters. Know the creative team. I mean, you don't have to be bosom buddies with them, but you at least have to know their names and who's working on it. Because if you go in completely not knowing anything, then it's not necessarily a waste of their time, but it makes it so much easier for you to really understand and connect with them if you know who those people are, why they're telling this story, what this show has, why it's there, why it's happening, why people are going out on a limb spending millions, hundreds, thousands of pounds to put this production on. Why is it there? What's its place? If you go in and you don't know that, or you don't know the character, it's fine. You might not know the character you're auditioning for. That happens a lot, but at least you know that those characters exist and that the story that's being told, because that will help those creators behind the team connect with you. You'll be able to have a conversation with them. You'll be able to spark off ideas. You know what I mean? And they really do want to create that connection, unless they're pushed for time. But I think if they're creating connection with you by bringing you into the room, don't jeopardize that. Do your homework before you go in. Learn the people. The very least you can do is learn the names of the creative team. Very least.
Great tips. Brendan, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us today. It's so lovely to hear from you. I am getting a little crackly signal at the moment, but I can still hear you. But honestly, it's been so great catching up and hearing, you know, your journey and your side of the story, and such helpful tips for everyone, you know, even people that are in the industry or graduates still, you know, trying to go through that process, because everything's going to open up. Yeah, exactly.
Anything I said, forget it.
No, no. But it is, you know, the industry's opening up, and it's going to be amazing when we go back, and hopefully, you know, this is going to help someone just maybe go that little bit further in their journey, and, you know, let's all take the next step up the ladder. I love that analogy.
The ladder.
Yeah, it's great, and it's just lovely to see you doing, you know, so well, and lots of lovely things that you've actually created. And I think, you know, more of that, please, more of that.
Absolutely.
But it's been gorgeous seeing your face after so long. I can't believe it.
I know.
Do you remember those dance classes I used to take? Oh,
Yeah.
hip hop. I just remember I was like, you and Patrick were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems so long ago, doesn't it, that all this happened? It's so bizarre, but it's beautiful seeing you, and let's keep in touch. And yeah, thank you once again for your time today. I really, really appreciate it, and lots of love and all the best to you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you, my darling. Take care.
Bye, darling.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Bye.